What's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here. So apologies for this video getting out so late. I did watch the game Saturday, I just wasn't at home to record a video about it. But I had considered just skipping it because it's not like I've never skipped a game before. But there's something that happened today specifically that maybe did want to talk about it a little bit. And that was the UEFA apparently deciding that teams can no longer sign players for more than 5 years starting next summer because Chelsea found a loophole where we've been signing players for extended contracts, which means that the transfer spread meant we weren't really signing them for that much this year. And I just find it kind of interesting because it feels like whenever Chelsea does something, that's when the FA and the UEFA are like, oh, whoa, wait a minute here. We can't have that. We can't have you guys finding loopholes, exploiting them. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? Manchester United? Manchester City? PSG? You guys can't exploit loopholes, okay? We're closing that one off. No. Chelsea can't do anything like that, okay? They're not allowed to, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and shut that down right now. It just made me kind of want to talk about that a little bit, which is not enough to fill up a video. So I figured I'd also talk about the Liverpool game a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. We've seen several instances in the past where teams definitely have done some shady stuff. I mean, Barcelona in the summer looked like they weren't going to be able to pay most of their players. They had to constantly find these little avenues of oh well, we'll do this, we'll extend this, or we'll find this emergency fund or something. I don't remember what they were doing now, but it just felt like, okay, how many of these do you guys have? Do other teams have this where, oh, we don't have enough to pay players? Well, we'll just activate this one thing in our club and boom, now suddenly we have enough to pay 5 more of these players. It just feels like we're definitely not the only club that looks to try to, push it to the next level when it comes to signing players. We obviously spend a lot of money to bring in the best of the best because that's what you have to do if you want to be best of the best. You got to buy the right players. You got to get them in here. That's how it works. No club has ever just gone, all right, you know what? We're not going to spend that much. We're just going to, we're going to sign a couple guys here. They're not great, but hey, you know what? Maybe they'll be okay. We'll just sign a couple guys. It doesn't work like that. I would say Arsenal is the closest it's come, but even they've spent quite a bit of money bringing in these players, and it's all coming together for them this season. Arteta's found the right things to say to get this team motivated, but even they spend a bit of money. You look at Tottenham, who just rarely spends anything, and they don't win anything because of that. If you want to win, you got to spend money to bring in the best players. That's what you have to do. And some teams do it willy-nilly and end up, spending all of this money and then not winning anything, like Man U. And some spend all that money and win everything, like Man City. It depends on how you spend it. So Chelsea found this clever little loophole that they were using to be all right, we're bringing in these players. It's costing us a lot of money, but you know what? We're bringing them in for a long-term contract. And that's how we're going to get around it. That's how we're going to bring in these players, spend all this money. Every club can do it. But because Chelsea did it, and because teams are oh, that sucks, and the FA's oh, Chelsea? Or actually, it was UEFA. Ooh, Chelsea's benefiting from something? No. That's ridiculous to me. That is absolutely ridiculous to me. Of all the times that Man City have gotten out of their little things oh well, let's just hire these lawyers and boom, no problem anymore. We don't have to get banned for anything. We'll just pay a small fine. PSG again. I don't know if they've ever actually been within the bylaws of FIFA Fair Play if you actually look into it, but nobody actually looks into it because there's no way. As much money as they spend, there's no way. There can't be that many people that watch the French League around the world either. So just all these little things, and it's just you think about what happened with Abramovich. You think about what happened when we got that 2-year that turned into 1.5-year ban in the transfer market. You think about all these things that have happened against us. How many other clubs are dealing with stuff like this? On this level. Obviously, there have been a few clubs that have dealt with other issues. You got your Derby counties that didn't do their jobs in the books and suddenly are now going bankrupt. It's kind of a different story. This is just we're spending money because we have the money to spend, and it's like FIFA's like, no, no, Chelsea is not allowed to do that because we don't like the fact that you were built from a Russian businessman. And that's honestly how honestly what I believe is the reasoning. There's that as soon as the whole thing happened with Ukraine, you just knew Abramovich that was going to be it for him. You knew that they were going to find a way to be like, "Oh, well, you see, because he's an oligarch in Russia, that means he's funding this war." Just because of his nationality, that means he's funding this war. We're just going to hate on all of the citizens and all of the people that live there. Even if they don't support it, we're still going to hate on them. That's what we do. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. Obviously, people have all their opinions and stuff. I know a lot of the other clubs don't like us because they feel like we bought everything. Even though, I don't hear as much hate on Man City for doing the exact same thing because they were absolutely nothing until they went on a spending spree after their money came from, was it Saudi Arabia? But, of course, that's where all the oil comes from. So we don't want to hate on their owners because that would be bad for business. So it's the hypocrisy of it all that kills me. But anyways, talking about the Liverpool game, though, it was very odd. Really watching it, really digging into it. 0-0 draw at Anfield. Any other season would be fantastic. However, as I talked about in my review before, when we beat Palace, we're not beating the top half of the table teams. We have not beaten a single one, and this is another game. We've played well. We got a point on the road. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you look at the fact that we're not beating anybody in the top half of the table, yeah, a point is not good enough. Especially, for Liverpool, it's also not good enough. And that they didn't play well. I didn't think they looked that good. They started the second half fine, but they really didn't test us as much as they should have, especially considering how poorly we've been playing. We did play well. And I thought, if a team were to come out of that having won it, it probably would have been us because we got unlucky a few times. But it's still frustrating, especially when you're getting down to the end of the match. You're watching, you're thinking, all right, come on, guys, let's go. And yet you've got, Kepa going to ground, holding it. You got Cucurella jogging over to the sideline, going for the ball's right here, and he goes for this ball over here because it adds an. I'm just thinking, why? I get most of the time if you're on the road and it's 0-0 and you're looking to save a point, that's fine. We're not looking for that right now. We should never be looking for, it's 0-0. Let's just keep it there, guys. We don't want to go too hard. We don't want to go too far. We don't want to give up a goal and lose. Let's just keep it 0-0. No, that doesn't do anything. All it does is help all the clubs above you and Liverpool get even further away from you and Liverpool. And it helps, I can't remember what team is now tied with us on points, or 1 point below us. I want to say it's Villa. But there are a couple clubs that are not quite there, but they're pretty close to us. And they could start taking over us if we're not doing our job and getting points against the top half of the table. So it was a very frustrating match by the end of it, because after all the good play, after all of the good stuff we did, after how hard we worked, first half especially, and then second half, after Mudryk came on, we really tested them and we gave them a game, and we looked to be the better team. We looked to win. And then suddenly around like the 75th minute mark, suddenly we started just, all right, guys, we've held them off this long. Let's keep this point, guys. All right. Anytime ball goes out, jog to it. Take your time. Take a few minutes off the clock. We don't want to give this point away. Who cares? If you lose, that's just Liverpool pulling further ahead of you. If you tie, there are 8 teams that are still pulling further ahead of you. So who gives a freaking crap? So it was just a very frustrating mentality to have at the end of the match. And because this match was a couple of days ago, I don't remember all of the intricacies of it and the little details. I do remember thinking that Bakitic, or however you pronounce it, the young kid for Liverpool, was surprised to see him stay on the field after he pretty much went into a worse challenge than Felix's that got him sent off in his first match for us. Because there's no difference. Felix is balls there, sliding in, trying to poke it away. Fulham player gets their first pokes it away. He catches him on, the ankle with his studs high. Okay, fine. You want to say it's a red card? You could say it's a red card. It wasn't that strong of a challenge. It was like kind of a light touch, and then you see his foot kind of come off like, oh crap, trying to pull it away. So it wasn't like he took him out. But if you want to say, well, that's a dangerous and reckless challenge, his studs shouldn't be that high, fine. Give him a red card for that then. But when Bakitic comes in, Mount's going to clear the ball away. His foot is equally as high as the Fulham player's was. And Bakitic comes in, not even sliding. He just comes in straight leg out through his leg. It wasn't like a, oops, sorry. No, it was a, took his leg out. Oh, here's your yellow. What? How are those two challenges any different? How is studs up when the leg's high from clearing the ball? Studs up when the leg's high from clearing the ball. Well, that's a red card. That's a yellow card. It shows me that this guy in the Fulham match, again, I think it was Peter Banks, idiot. Idiot for letting his emotions, letting the Fulham players all complaining for a card every single time a challenge came in. He let his emotions get the best of him. As soon as there was a slightly dangerous challenge, he's like, all right, fine, here's his red, stop bugging me now. This guy, I think it was Michael Oliver, also an idiot. Because that is actually a dangerous challenge. Because again, where Felix's was a light touch, Bakitic's was through his leg. His studs were left in, took him out. That's a red card. But no, here's your yellow. And then there were a couple that just, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Milner. He went into a challenge, should have gotten a yellow card for it, didn't, and then later on in the match, takes out Mudryk, should have been his second yellow, but he avoided the yellow earlier in the half. Just a few like that around the pitch where I'm thinking, why isn't that a yellow? And it felt like he was being very lenient. And I don't know, it was bugging me. And again, I know some of that is because of the frustrating year we've had and how frustrating it was that we're not getting the goal that we need to win. You add all that frustration on, and then the ref is doing things that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'm probably a little extra frustrated, more than I should be. So, but going into individuals, Kepa made a couple pretty good saves. Nothing like phenomenal, but yeah, there were a couple of pretty good shots that I thought he handled well. Trying to remember if there's anything like really good or really bad that he did, but can't think of anything off the top of my head. But they didn't test him, I thought, as much as I expected them to. There were several chances that they had that I'm expecting, Liverpool from the past few seasons, they're getting a shot on target. They're putting it somewhere on the frame of the goal, and they whiffed several opportunities like that. So I thought they helped us out a little bit on that aspect, but yeah, Kepa I thought he was okay. Nothing phenomenal. Kind of a back four in a way. We had the kind of three that stayed all the time with Chalobah, Silva, and Badiashile, or Badiashile, can't remember how to pronounce it. And then Cucurella, kind of a left back, kind of a left wing back. Ziyech, mostly a right wing, sometimes a right wing back though. So it was kind of a little bit of back and forth on that, but Chalobah looked a bit better in the game. He looked more competent defensively, looked more competent on the ball, which is good because he has been struggling. The past couple games he played, he didn't look that good. So I'm glad that he's starting to get back to the form that I expect to see from him, because we need him to be there since Fofana is still out for a while. Spilicueta is kind of dropping off. Koulibaly's not good enough. We need him to be what we've seen for the past couple years. And for whatever reason, after the World Cup break, he came back and was just not good. So, but Silva, another typically fantastic performance from him. Always just in the right place at the right time. I don't feel like there's anything more I could say that I haven't said about him before. So, another 10 out of 10 for me. Badiashile, though, is really growing into this team pretty well, pretty quickly, too. I don't know. The past couple matches, he's looked really good. He's looked solid against Palace, and now he looks solid against Liverpool, which is not an easy feat. Even though they're not at their best this year, they're still a dangerous team in the build-up play, and I feel like we didn't really let them look dangerous that often, and Badiashile had a lot to do with that. I thought he kept Salah pretty quiet on that left side. So yeah, I feel like he's showing his capability, which is good because again, Koulibaly I don't think has shown his quality this season. So having him come in, and pretty sure he's pretty young as well, like 23, 24, which especially for a defender is young. I, I I think he's going to be a good mainstay in that back three if he can continue on this form and not, hopefully they don't find him out and figure out what his weakness is and try to exploit that. But on the wing backs / kind of fullbacks, Cucurella, kind of just an average performance from him, which is, I mean, it's good for him because we've had several matches where we've seen he's not only not helped us, but he's hurt us. In this match, he didn't really help us still, but he didn't hurt us either. So at least he didn't make any major mistakes. That's a step in the right direction. I still don't think he's going to be good enough in the long run, but we at least need him to not make mistakes for us because he's had too many games where that's happened and it's cost us goals and it's cost us points. So it's, again, right direction, but we need him to keep pushing in that direction at least until Chilwell gets back. In my opinion, though, I think Hall is still the better option to have out there. But in this game, Hall, Jorginho in the middle. I thought Hall still looks pretty solid. Did look a little uncomfortable at times in the midfield, and I think a lot of that has to do with, even though he's shown good composure on the ball and he's shown good awareness, I think in this match, throwing him into the thick of it against a team that presses high in the midfield, it was a little too much for him to handle at times. So there were a few moments where he was caught, maybe not quite ready for what was coming all around him. He sees this one guy, he's ready to turn him, not realizing that Liverpool have a second guy coming here and then a third guy from behind. So against a team like Liverpool, this might not have been the best game to throw him into the midfield. But that being said, I still think he handled a lot of the situations well. I think his composure on the ball looks like what we need. His creativity, at times could be good. At times was, maybe a little too hard on his passes. But for the most part, especially because he's still a kid, he's looking good. He's looking solid. I still think he's a better option at left wing back than Cucurella is, and that's something to be proud of considering his age. So, Jorginho, though, typical performance from him. Slow, getting beat too easily. All the pages, Chelsea fan pages praising him after the match. I don't get it. I watch him make so many mistakes in the match and then afterwards be like, oh, look at his stats. 100% passing rate, 100% dribbling rate. He made 3 tackles. Like, could you stop using stats to say that somebody's a good player and actually watch his match? Watch how he plays, watch him get beat and then jog back and be the last person to get back and defend even though he's the one that missed the challenge that began the attack? It blows my mind that this is still something that happens even after all these years. First couple seasons where we were playing okay, and he was involved, I didn't see anything from him, but I understood, like, okay, so we're playing well, people are praising him because he's involved in a team that's playing well. I don't see it because I see the whole field. I don't just see, like, oh, look at that pass and look at that. I watch the whole match, not the highlights. So because of that, overall he's not that good, but we're playing well, so he's getting a lot of praise because of that. That's fine. This has been a season where we've not been playing well, and he's been involved in a lot of the matches, and people are still acting like, oh, it's not he's not the problem. How can you praise him when we're doing well and then praise him when we're not doing well, and not see all the issues that he brings to the team? Just mind-boggling how beloved he is. And you look at a person like Werner, who's constantly just working hard for the team last year. Nobody wanted to praise him for that. They just wanted to focus on, oh, did you see his miss there? Not good enough. People are idiots. Ziyech on the right side, though, another solid first half performance, and then second half, not the best. Kind of faded again. And it's still something he's got to work on because he is a good player, but we need him to be a good player all throughout the game. Because we can't have another Hudson-Odoi situation on our hands where we have somebody who's, yes, he's looking great, and then second half we come out. Do we leave him in the locker room? Is Hudson-Odoi? Is he out here? Oh, there he is. Okay, he touched the ball and he gave it away. Okay. But that's kind of where he is right now, and it is disappointing because of his quality that we've seen. So, into the front three ish. Gallagher looked a lot more comfortable in the front three. I feel like that's where he needs to play. Because he's not been playing that well. He's been having a rough time. And most of those games he's been sitting as one of the two deep midfielders. I don't think that's where he's good. He has a lot of energy, so he can press high. His quality on the ball in the final third looks pretty solid. He's not doing fantastic, but he's getting in the right spots. He can have a pretty decent shot, most of the time. I think we need to get him in front of the goal. We don't need him trying to win the ball back deep. We don't need him on the ball deep because he's a little too erratic, and it can give the ball away very cheaply and get us, basically hit us on the counter for the other team. So we need him further forward more often, in my opinion. Mount, honestly, kind of the opposite this year. In the past few years, obviously he's been a fantastic servant for us in the front three. Very hard worker, wins the ball back, looks good in front of goal. This season, still working hard, still wins the ball back well. In front of goal, he's not been good. And this is another match where when he got in that final third, he just does not know what to do with it right now. So it might be something that we need to look at where let's drop him deeper. Let's have him play deeper instead of Gallagher. Because I don't think Gallagher's a deeper center mid. So I don't know if that's something to look at. Potter, again, he's still not proven much to me as far as his intelligence level. So I don't think he's going to see that as an issue. I don't think he's going to realize, Mount's not helping us in front of goal. Gallagher is. Maybe we should drop Mount deeper so he's not in front of goal as much. I don't think that thought process is ever going to hit him because he's too busy thinking, how can I find a way to play Jorginho and Cucurella and not get pelted from the fans? Because they are my favorites. And Havertz, too. I might as well throw him on the list. Because, going to Havertz as the final starter, another bland game from him overall. I'm just still not seeing why he's continuing to being used. Sorry, I don't know why the words just came out weird there. I don't know why Potter's continuing to use him as a striker, because it has almost never worked. Oh, he scored a goal in the last match. Yeah, you had another striker on the field, and first of all, and also, that was from a set piece. From the run of play, Havertz as a striker does not work. It hasn't worked under Tuchel, hasn't worked under Potter, and he's played the last 5 matches at striker. I don't get it. I mean, Fofana must be absolutely trash if he cannot get into the team ahead of Havertz as a striker. We just bought one of the worst strikers in the world if he can't beat Havertz out to that spot. So, I'm very frustrated that that's continuing to be a thing. That's continuing to be our option up there. Obviously, Aubameyang, I'll go ahead and talk about him even though he's subbed in later. He's still not showing anything. He's still not helping us, so I'm not saying we need to try him out at striker. We need a striker who can move, like Werner. We need somebody up there who's going to work hard, who's going to make runs, who's going to be busy in the box. And Havertz, Aubameyang, they're not. They stand there, they wait for the cross to come into them. Hey, hit me on the head. And if it's not a pinpoint right on their head cross, if they make a run and it's not at the end of their run, you're not going to get anything from them. It was just a few feet behind you. It doesn't matter. It wasn't right at me, so I'm not going to move. I made this run right here, and that's the only run I'm going to make. You better put it right here, and if you don't, that's your fault. I didn't do anything wrong. I made my run. That's probably not what they're thinking, but that's what I see. And it's just very frustrating from the type of person who, when I played, pass wasn't right to me, well, you turn around, you try to get the pass. It's behind you. Okay, well, stop your run, go get it. Some of my favorite players, they make a run, it's not to them. Well, you know what? I'm going to find a way to get to that. Giroud was great at that. I really miss having him up there because he was the type of striker, that ball's not right to me, I'm getting that ball. It doesn't matter if it's not right to me, I'm getting there. I'm going to get on the end of that cross. So, yeah, between Havertz, Aubameyang, and what we saw from Lukaku, that's kind of been our problem from our number 9s for the past few years. So, as far as the subs that came in, obviously, again, I already talked about Aubameyang. I'll talk quickly about Chukwuemeka and Azpilicueta, because they both came in later as well. Azpilicueta, okay, again, the hard worker, the leader back there who's busting it every match, but physically, just not really cutting it right now. A little too easy to get past him at the moment, but I don't remember him making any big mistakes, so at least that didn't happen. And then Chukwuemeka, looked pretty solid again, looked very energetic. I watch him and I'm thinking, why isn't he starting again? Why are we seeing Mountain Gallagher? Not that I dislike Mountain Gallagher. I'm not like the fans that are calling for their heads because they haven't done anything. But at the same time, I look at Chukwuemeka and I'm thinking he probably should be starting right now over one of those two because he looks more productive. He looks more dangerous at the moment. So, but for whatever reason that doesn't happen, and then we see the same players game after game that aren't getting the job done. But I would save the best for last because, Mudryk, fantastic debut. Obviously, the finishing is going to be an issue, but looking very energetic, looking very productive, progressive on the ball, wants to take people on, very clever at keeping the ball. Some people have compared him to Hazard, the way he can kind of sneak out of a challenge. That one moment in the box where he was just in and out. I can see why the comparisons are being made. I don't think it's quite the same, but I do see why people are making those comparisons because he did a fantastic job of just really putting the Liverpool defense under pressure. Every time he picked it up, you felt like he was ready to just drive down the field with it. It wasn't a mindset of, oh, thank you, let's see, pressure, I'll just go backwards with it. He wanted to get into the box and make things happen. And it was a great feeling to see that from his debut. So it does get me a little bit more excited for the rest of this season because, first of all, looking into the medical staff, that's a bonus. Hopefully we start to see some moves being made there so that way we can start to see some of our players returning fully healthy from their injuries and not coming back and getting re-injured, which means players like James, players like Conte, we'll start to see them getting back into the team, which will greatly benefit us. And even if those injured players are out for a little while longer, we've got Mudryk in. He looks good. Felix looked good on his debut, and he'll be back after the next match. So we'll have both of them on the attacking front, which will be dangerous. We're bringing in some of these other players. Don't really know much about them at the moment, but we're bringing all these players in that seems like we're building for the long term. And I have my thoughts about that. I still feel like this was not necessarily the season to say, let's look at the long term, because part of the problem or part of the thing with looking at the long term is if you want to attract the best players to your club, you have to be playing in the best competitions. I feel like the move for this season should have been to, again, basically patch up the cracks that Tuchel left, all of the issues we were having, patch up those cracks for this season, get in somebody who's going to fix that and bring in a few players that are going to fix the holes. Do that. And then next summer, that's when you bring in, a manager like Potter who's young, full of energy, ready for the long term. You start bringing in some of these younger players who are ready for the long term. Some of them can already step in. That's when you start building something else. I don't feel like you start doing that in a season where things are starting to crumble. It's like the boat is sinking, and instead of patching the holes, you start like, oh, well, you know what? Let's start building another stronger boat. Like, yeah, but you have to make sure your boat doesn't sink first, or else you're going to be in the water trying to build another boat, and that's not a good place to build a boat from. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion. We'll see if it works out. Again, some of these players that are coming in right now, they do look like they'll help us this season. And I don't know what players are going to be sold this January transfer window. I'm assuming probably a few just because there are a lot of players that we have right now. And we can't really keep all of them because a lot of them won't be playing for us if we keep all of them. So I imagine we'll probably see a few departures. A lot of talks Jorginho is going to leave. Wouldn't mind that at all, but we do need to bring in some midfielders because right now our midfield is our midfield's our weakest spot. You know, we got Jorginho, we got Kovacic, we got Conte, Loftus-Cheek, kind of, Gallagher and Mount, kind of. Like, we got players that can play there. We don't have true, like, defensive-minded midfielders. You know, and that's thinking about, like, Rice or Bellingham. We don't have anybody like that. So we need to bring in somebody like that, in my opinion. That would be kind of the final piece, especially if you're looking to offload Jorginho. Again, don't have a problem with that, but numbers-wise, we need somebody in here who can replace the numbers in the midfield. So, yeah, that's about all I've got. I know this was a bit of a longer one, so apologies again for the late video, but shouldn't happen again for a little while. So that's all I've got for you guys. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game? What are your thoughts on what's going on in the bigger picture of everything? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.